A garden in Paris. As early morning began to break, I found myself standing still while the world around me bloomed awake. I had come here for a blind matchmaking event, though even as I stood there, I wasn't sure why I had signed up. I guess part of me was curious, and the other part restless, searching for something I couldn't quite name. The garden itself whispered with a soft breeze of new life. Fresh blossoms began to unfold. The dew glistened on soft petals, and the scent of jasmine carried through the air. The sun, just beginning to rise, bathed everything in a warm, golden haze. Its rays peeked through the tall iron gates, catching on the cascading vines adorned with delicate white and violet blossoms. The flowers stretched forward to reach the pale morning light, swaying gently in the breeze. Around me stood a group of women I had never met before. Their faces held a haunting familiarity of a half-remembered dream, recognizable yet distant. We were all women of roughly the same age, many of whom carried a striking beauty that felt curated and polished. You could see it in the way they moved, with an effortless confidence, and in how they spoke to one another, with the ease of people who belonged. I, on the other hand, felt unmistakably out of place. I wasn't as striking, not nearly as radiant or socially magnetic as the rest. What had possessed me to sign up for this, I couldn't say, but the sense that I didn't belong clung to me like a shadow I couldn't escape from. The stillness in the air was broken only by the soft flutter of petals loosening from nearby blossoms, or the faint hum of bees drifting lazily between blooms. We stood just behind the ornate gate, each of us waiting. Across from us stood 3 men, strangers with unreadable expressions, their presence calm yet expectant. It became clear they were here to make a decision, one that involved only 3 of us, and whatever that decision was, it would be led by only instinct and first impressions. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to stand there, silently hoping for something I already believed wasn't meant for me. While the others held themselves with a quiet confidence, I felt invisible, unremarkable, in a sea of women who seemed effortlessly captivating. So I slipped away, unnoticed, moving quietly around the edge of the stone pillar beside the tall iron gate. Why endure the slow ache of rejection when I already knew I wouldn't be chosen? After I left the enchanted garden, the morning sun climbed higher. The cobblestone streets ahead gleamed with the warm golden glow from the sun's rays glistening along the cracks. pedestrians hustled and bustled to and from, while cyclists coasted by with baskets full of fresh bread and flowers, weaving gently between strolling pedestrians. Lovers and confidants sat across from one another while enjoying their warm macchiatos and delicious pastries at the tiny cafes that hugged the cobblestone streets. Despite the uncertainty that I had just left behind, this place was something you'd see in an old romantic movie, or what would play in the background of a dream you're not ready to wake from. It was the perfect start to the day in the beautiful city of Paris, as love and zest for life filled the atmosphere. I found myself drawn to explore a small store to my right. It had polished marble floors that made any footsteps echo slightly. It was a soft reminder that it was only I and the shop owner inside. The shelves were lined with curious and dainty little trinkets and delicate stationery. It was ever so wholesome, the kind of things that invite you to linger without knowing why. I heard an old familiar sound, one I've not heard in a very long time, come from behind. Not realizing it was my old phone tucked away in the back pocket of my bag. How did this get here? With furrowed brows I wondered. And who would be calling me? I pulled it out, blinking in disbelief. 14% battery left. Not much for a phone call, but just enough to see who it might have been. I answered, "Hello?" I heard a man on the other side call my name. "Hi, Angie. I looked for you, but I couldn't find you. I wanted to let you know you were my choice." My jaw dropped as I was catching my breath. He didn't say who, but in that moment, he didn't have to. I didn't care. I was chosen, and that's all that mattered. Even though my brain couldn't help but race with thoughts, thinking, but how could this be? Of all the other amazingly stunning women there, why me? What made me stand out from the rest? As I leaned into his energy, it felt familiar instantly, as if a thread was pulling gently from my chest to his, as if we were kindred spirits reconnecting once again. In the next lifetime, as lovers often promised each other they would. As my hands trembled, searching my bag for my phone charger, as I didn't have much time left before I would lose him. Within the tanglement of miscellaneous items throughout my bag, a few pens and breath mints, my wallet, an overripe banana I packed for a just-in-case snack. Although there was no way I'd be able to eat it now, I finally found my charger. I searched frantically and finally found a plug in the floorboard of the tiny shop that waited for me, as if it was fate. As I plugged the old dying phone in, slowly I was able to let out a sigh of relief. The screen flickered brightly as the battery indicator pulsed gently to life. I held the phone to my ear again, afraid the moment had passed, but he was still there waiting. "I didn't think you'd answer," he said softly, almost like a smile had slipped into his voice. "I almost didn't," I replied, the words catching somewhere between a laugh and a whisper. "I didn't think there was a point to any of this. I didn't think anyone would choose me." A silence followed, the kind of silence that holds meaning without having to explain itself. "I saw you," he said, "before you slipped away. You didn't think you belonged there, but you stood out. You didn't have to try, and I just knew." At that point, something in me broke open. All the doubt, all the second guessing I had carried like weight slipped just slightly from my shoulders. I didn't have the words for what I felt, but I could feel it all the same. Even though the phone was still plugged in, the screen went black. It died. Our connection was gone, cut mid-breath like a sentence unfinished. We had no way of reaching each other again. Stunned, I unplugged the phone slowly, rolled up the charger, and tucked both back into my bag. "What good was this anyway?" I mumbled under my breath. "It's not like I even wanted to be here in the first place." I then decided to exit the quaint little shop, and I realized I hadn't eaten all morning. Although I wasn't very hungry, and now feeling disappointed, I needed to eat something, and that overripe banana I packed wasn't going to help. I slipped into a small cafe that hugged the cobblestone streets. The scent of warm espresso and something delicately sweet filled the room. Even though I chose to sit at a table for two, the truth settled within me. It would still, for some time, be for just one. And then, as I looked up from the menu, there was a man standing in the doorway. It was him. How did he find me? Or maybe fate had. "Angie," he exclaimed excitedly, as if we hadn't seen each other in years. He ran over to me and pulled me into his warm embrace. "How do you even know who I am?" I asked barely above a whisper. "And how did you find me here?" His gaze held mine as if the world had fallen away, leaving only us suspended in that very moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and rich, like velvet soaked in red wine, replying to my faint whisper. "My soul has searched for you in places that I didn't know existed. I promised you'd I'd find you. I'd search endlessly in every lifetime, and I would have searched 1,000 lifetimes more." He pulled me into his arms, his touch both gentle and strong, as if he would never lose me again. Then, without another word, he pulled me tighter into his arms, his embrace gentle and strong, as though he feared letting go might tear open the threads of fate that had finally sewn us back together. In that kiss, time unraveled, and all doubts melted away, leaving only the undeniable truth of us. His kiss was not of this world. It was a sacred promise reignited, soft and familiar, yet powerful enough to make time stand still. Though my mind hesitated, still trying to make sense of what was unfolding, the moment his voice reached me again, it filled every hollow space with warmth and certainty. It was as if my soul had been waiting for that sound, for that feeling. And in that stillness, something deep within me stirred, something ancient and eternal. My soul recognized him, and with a quiet, undeniable knowing, it whispered back. "You found me," I whispered, as I slowly pulled back from the kiss that lingered through lifetimes. "You found me, and now that we're here, we'll never lose each other again."